this webinar. As you may know already, Digital AgriHub is celebrating 5 years of operation as an independent platform and intermediary for digital agriculture, from curating 1,500 published digital solutions on our dashboard to convening partners and practitioners through what we call e-conversation and webinars, to supporting rather vibrant D4Ag electronic community, which now counts 2,000 members, as today, more or less. The hub continues, at least that's what we hope, to strengthen its role as a trusted space for learning, exchanging, ecosystem coordination. And to mark this milestone, the Digital AgriHub and partners, Commonwealth Secretariats, FAO, ICA, Grameen Foundation, Eastern Africa Farmers Federation, Asian Farmers Association, D Groups Foundation, have hosted a series of e-discussions and webinars under the theme 5 years on, 5 years ahead, the digital agriculture ecosystem for small-scale producers in low and mid-income countries. These brought together practitioners, researchers, farmers association, whose again we value very much for their contribution, and other actors to reflect on the past 5 years and to explore what the next 5 could bring, especially after the tumultuous, if I can say, emergence of AI. These are not easy times, as you can imagine, for an initiative like ours, between increasingly scarce resources to perform this role of independent and neutral intermediary that has always distinguished us, and the new technological, economic, and social challenges affecting our ecosystem. But we will try our best to make good use of the enriching contribution from our community. Building on our second e-discussion, which was just concluded, today's webinar brings together key partners and you all actually to reflect on what is ahead of us, major trends, and the evolving role of Digital AgriHub within this ecosystem. As done in the first webinar, we will start with Giacomo Rambaldi and some takeaways from the e-discussion. Then we will have a panel with Kata Chislik, Federico Bert, Nixon Geceo, Lakshmi Lear, and Sander Jansen, who will at least try to pull the strings. Our is not a very formal panel, but rather a conversation between colleagues and friends. Finally, we will open the floor to you with an interactive session, a Q&A, a chat, a Mentimeter. I think Inder will share in the chat some housekeeping instructions. Giacomo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
But you have to.
So I'm going to present the takeaways from the second e-discussion, which has been looking 5 years ahead. There is one citation we want to recall from Edna Karamachi, a lady farmer from Uganda: digitalization should lighten the farmer's load, not add to it. So please, next slide, please. So Q4, question number 4. How do you see the digital agriculture ecosystem evolving over the next 5 years? There were 5 takeaways. Number 1, participants consistently stressed that D4Ag solutions will only thrive if the underlying enabling environment is strengthened. This includes shared digital infrastructure, supportive legal and regulatory frameworks, functioning local markets, and institutional capacity. The discussion highlighted the importance of having the basics in place before expecting digital agriculture solutions to scale sustainably. Number 2, contributors challenged the conventional expectation of rapid growth and scaling commonly associated with technology innovation. Instead, there was broad support for a slower and more sustainable approach focused on long-term farmer engagement and measurable impact beyond pilot phases and donor-funded projects. Success should be judged by whether farmers continue benefiting from services after project end, rather than by short-term adoption metrics. Number 3, a recurring theme was the importance of countries, communities, and local innovators being able to shape their own digital agriculture trajectories. Contributors highlighted the need for locally rooted ecosystem, that are resilient, independent, and aligned with local realities rather than overly dependent on external agendas and imported models. Grassroots, transforming, and community-driven approaches were seen as particularly important for ensuring that technology serves local needs. Number 4, the discussion emphasized that sustainable D4AG development depends on collaboration across technology, governance, legal system, institutional arrangements, and human expertise. Participants argued that digital agriculture ecosystems cannot be built through isolated solutions alone, but instead require co-construction of shared ecosystem layers and stronger coordination among stakeholders. Item 5. Contributors stressed that digital literacy should no longer be treated as a secondary capacity building issue, but rather as a core enabling condition for inclusive and sustainable digital agriculture. Strengthening the digital capacity of all ecosystem actors, including farmers, extension agents, agro-dealers, and institutions, was viewed as essential for the next phase of D4AG development. Also, participants also recognized that achieving this at a scale remains a major challenge. Next slide, please. Question 5. How do you see the role of artificial intelligence in this respect between opportunities and safeguards? Item 1. Participants agreed that artificial intelligence has significant potential to improve agricultural analysis, planning, and advisory services. However, its effectiveness depends on reliable data system, interoperable infrastructure, and robust public digital ecosystem rather than on algorithms alone. Item 2. The discussion suggested that the most realistic near-term application of AI lie in supporting extension agents, researchers, agro-dealers, and policymakers through analytics and decision support, while trusted human intermediaries remain essential for contextualization and farmer engagement. Item 3. Contributors highlighted that adoption barriers are not only technical, but also social and institutional. Trust, digital literacy, affordability, local relevance, language accessibility, and sustained engagement all shape whether farmers meaningful benefit from digital and AI-enabled services. Item 4. There was strong support for context-specific and energy-efficient AI systems, including edge-based and small language models adapted to local realities. Contributors also stressed the importance of open approaches, data sovereignty, and safeguards to prevent farmers from losing control over their data and decision-making. Item 5. The exchanges consistently emphasized that AI should augment rather than replace human capacities. Effective safeguards, including transparent governance, human oversight, inclusive design, and protection for vulnerable groups, were seen as essential to ensure that AI contributes to equitable and sustainable agricultural development. Next slide, please. Q6. How should the digital AgriHub embrace this, the ongoing largely AI-driven evolution? Item 1. Participants argued that the hub's product and services should focus on combining forward-looking thinking with a deep understanding of farmers' needs and aspirations. Rather than being driven by technology trends alone, it should help shape a vision for digital agriculture that starts from the perspectives of farmers and informs broader policy and investment decisions. Item 2. As AI rapidly evolves, the hubs can play an important role in fostering research, encouraging open discussions, and creating opportunities to test and evaluate new approaches. Safe environments for experimentation, knowledge exchange, and collective learning can help stakeholders understand both the opportunities and limitations of emerging technologies before they are deployed at scale. Item 3. AI offers opportunities to improve how agricultural data are analyzed, interpreted, and transformed into actionable insights. Contributors suggested that the hub should support collaboration among researchers, practitioners, policymakers, and farmers, helping them identify trends, generate evidence, and make better informed decisions while ensuring that the farmer perspective remains visible throughout the process. Final, number 4. Participants argued that farmers should not only be consulted about digital innovation, but should help shape them. The hub can support this by ensuring that farmers and their representative organizations have a visible and meaningful role in e-discussions, webinar panels, and innovation processes, allowing their perspectives to inform priorities, design choices, and assessments of success. This will help move digital agriculture from technology-driven model to one that is genuinely farmer-centered. These are the takeaways. Next slide, please. Now, while this last e-discussion was concluded, now we have a new e-conversation which started today, and which is organized in collaboration with by the Digital Agri Hub, in collaboration with the International Fertilizer Association and Farm Hack Netherlands. And this e-conversation is on nutrient use efficiency across food system. The exchanges will focus on sustainability, traceability, digitalization, and food system transformation. If you're interested, you can join the e-discussion and contribute your perspective. The link is shown at the bottom of the slides. Tommaso, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Giacomo. As usual, a very effective summary of a very rich discussion, as you call it, the pulse of our community around these themes, and to learn from this pulse and elaborate further. We have a panel discussion now, and we start with Kata Cieslik. Her first name is more complicated. Kata, so you are associate professor at the Global Development Institute, University of Manchester, and you're specializing in critical agri-tech studies in sub-Saharan Africa. And in the recently concluded e-discussion, you stressed on the emerging tension between what you call a Silicon Valley style hype around agricultural AI transformation versus farmers' extractive reality, where you added traditional knowledge and labor are being appropriated under the guise of technological progress. Can you elaborate on this? What are you seeing happening that indicates these trends?
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the question, and also for the very useful summary of the e-discussion. So to kind of make a connection to that, what strikes me is that if you've worked on technology and development long enough, you start hearing, similar promises repeated in different forms, right? So 20 years ago, it was mobile phones, feature phones, then smartphones, then digital apps, and now it's AI, right? So the technologies change, but the underlying narrative remains sort of remarkably stable, right? Technology will overcome institutional weaknesses, bypass inefficiencies, and empower farmers, which is kind of interesting, right? So my work sort of sits within these long kind of standing debate of ICT4D scholarship, right? And it is interesting to sort of see how some of these themes kind of keep re-emerging and some things that remain sort of obscured. So this is where I would like to kind of answer your question by kind of zooming onto three sort of points of concern. The first one is about the premise of automation, right? So many digital agriculture initiatives are in fact built on this assumption that technology can sort of replace intermediaries, right? And deliver services directly to farmers. And this promise is very attractive because intermediaries are often viewed as costly, inefficient, difficult to scale, while digital technologies, right, by contrast, as presented as a way to deliver advice, credit, market information, you name it, sort of directly to a farmer cheaply and at scale, right? Yet again and again, in my research, I find the opposite, right? The most successful digital interventions depend heavily on extension officers, field agents, cooperative leaders, and it is likely to remain so for, I would say, 5 to 10 years. These actors, they translate, they troubleshoot, they build trust, they encourage adoption, right? So digital agriculture doesn't really eliminate intermediaries, right? It, in fact, may create new forms of hidden labor, right? That remain largely sort of invisible within the narratives of technological innovation. The second concern is about this idea of disintermediation, right? So platforms, digital agriculture platforms are frequently presented as tools that connect farmers directly to markets, buyers, and services. But again, what we observe is not so much disintermediation as it is re-intermediation, right? So new digital actors position themselves, right, between farmers and markets, creating new dependencies while also capturing value, right? So this raises an important question that is rarely discussed, right? How are these platforms funded and sustained? Many are initially supported by various philanthropic organizations, the Gates Foundation, the MasterCard, right? Donors, but eventually someone must pay, right? So if farmers are not willing to pay for some of the less tangible services like agricultural advice, right? Where exactly is value being created and extracted, right? So understanding the business model is, I think, quite essential because it often reveals new forms of dependency, right? That remain hidden behind narratives of inclusion, right? So smallholder agriculture is not an easy investment landscape. We've got crop uncertainty, volatile prices, low transaction costs and values, seasonal production especially, right? They make a very challenging environment for business, right? Which is why a number of digital interventions must rely on these vast amounts of big data analytics to optimize their services, to minimize risk, and also to identify new growth opportunities. Which brings me to my third concern, which is about data, right? So if you're thinking about especially platforms delivering agricultural advice, right? If the objective was just to disseminate agricultural knowledge, many farmers would receive information through technologies that they already know and trust, such as WhatsApp or Telegram, right? So why the push towards dedicated applications? The answer increasingly, my research would point, lies in data, right? So apps become valuable because they do so much more than send information, right? They record interactions, they track behavior, they link services together and generate data that then can be well analyzed and potentially in the future also monetized. So this is something that my current project is sort of looking at, combining qualitative fieldwork across three African countries with computer engineering methods, such as digital ecosystem mapping, app scraping, and network traffic analysis with a very brilliant PhD candidate, Peace Chibuzi Obioma, working with us. And here, our preliminary findings actually reveal these persistent extractive infrastructures across the sector, right? So the majority of digital applications that we analyzed initiated third-party data transmissions without user consent. We also identified third-party trackers capable of building behavioral profiles of users, right? And found certain weaknesses when it comes to how sensitive data were handled and secured. But what is perhaps the most important here is that we would see the same analytics and engagement services appearing repeatedly across otherwise unrelated applications. So what does this mean in lay language? Well, it suggests that these practices do not necessarily reflect the decisions of individual developers, right? They emerge from a sort of shared infrastructure layer of what I would call commercial surveillance tools embedded across the sector as a whole. So taken together, these three concerns point to my kind of broader issue, right? The central question for me is not whether digital technologies work for farmers in the kind of narrow developmental sense. Many undoubtedly do. They provide useful services. So for me, the more important question is how they actually reorganize agrarian life itself, right? What sort of forms of new dependencies they might create, whose knowledge becomes authoritative and who captures value, right? Sort of this translates into the sort of agricultural futures that become possible or impossible as a result of these processes. So for me, that is where the most important debates around digital platforms and AI actually now lie. I'm going to stop here to hear from my other panelists. I'm curious to see what they think.
Oh, well, thank you, Kata, for sharing your three concerns, big concerns. And I don't know if Federico can answer them all, but first and above all, Federico, who is the manager of the agri-food digitalization program at ICA, Inter-American Institute for Innovation in Agriculture, Cooperation on Agriculture, sorry. Federico, last year during the Digital Agricultural Week in Costa Rica that ICA organizes every year, I was the witness of, I would call, world-class digital innovation in a way, often AI supported, being developed in Latin America and the Caribbean. But what about adoption trends and in general around what you also call responsible digital transformation in Latin America and the Caribbean? How does the future look in the region from this point of view?
Okay, thank you very much, Tommaso. Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Argentina. First of all, congratulations to Digital Agri-Hub on its first 5 years, and thank you very much for the opportunity of being here today. On behalf of ICA, thank you very much. And I will try in the next 6-7 minutes to share some key messages in response to Tommaso's question. But before that, let me explain very quickly what ICA is and what we do. So ICA, as Tommaso said, is the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture. We are the specialized agency for agriculture of the Organization of American States. We work with 34 country members from Argentina until Canada, including the Caribbean, to promote agricultural and rural development. So at ICA, we see digital technologies as a powerful instrument to build a more productive, efficient, and sustainable agriculture while creating new opportunities for rural people and communities. So for that reason, I mean, our vision is that digital technologies are key for face the present and future challenges of agri-food systems. And so as a consequence of that, we are supporting our country members in advancing digital transformation across the agricultural sector. So having said that, what do we mean by responsible digital transformation? What we see is that digital technologies can generate enormous benefits. I think that no one is discussing this, but at the same time, they can also create risks if transformation is not managed properly. So many countries of the Americas in our region still face important gaps in connectivity, in digital skills, access to technologies, and institutional capacities. So as a result of that, digitalization can unintentionally widen existing inequalities and leave some farmers or rural communities behind. So, and that is our concern. So for us, responsible digital transformation means accelerating the adoption of digital solutions while minimizing negative externalities and ensuring inclusion. That is what responsible digital transformation means for us. And that is why we work with governments in our region and stakeholders to first raise awareness about the impacts and potential benefits and risks of digital transformations, support policy design, strengthen capacities, showcase successful solutions, and help adapt technologies to different local contexts. So after that, the second concept, where we are. I will summarize my answer saying that many technologies, low adoption. And I think that it is very similar to what is happening in the rest of the world. So in our region today, we have like a very interesting paradox. We have, on one hand, a very dynamic innovation ecosystem. Together with Embrapa in Brazil, we are currently mapping nearly 3,000 agtech startups in Latin America and the Caribbean, originated in Latin America and the Caribbean, and around 65% of those startups offer digital solutions. So we don't have a lack of deficit of innovation. We have world-class digital solutions, but we have an adoption gap. And just making a double click in that idea, some simple and accessible technologies such as WhatsApp or I don't know, weather forecast in the cell phone are already widely used even among smallholder farmers. But on the other hand, adoption of more advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, IoT solutions, smart machinery, or BRT technologies remains low, very low, I would say, even among professional and medium and large scale farmers. So for instance, in medium and large scale farmers from Brazil and Argentina, precision seeding, fertilization, or selective spraying remains well below 10%, and I could say 5%. So the challenge for the coming years is not to continue developing technologies, probably adapting those technologies to local context, but the main challenge is to expand the adoption of the existing technologies and to get positive impacts of that, or from that. And just to finish, that last concept, I would summarize the last concept saying that I'm very optimistic about the future. In our region, I believe that we are approaching an acceleration phase in the next 2-3 years. Basically, because connectivity is quickly improving. Solutions are maturing and becoming better adapted to real needs as part of a co-innovation process, and we are trying to facilitate those innovation processes from MICA. The value proposition of the technologies is becoming clearer. The new generations are entering the sector very slowly, but they are entering, and AI is making many technologies easier to use and more accessible. So for all these reasons, I expect adoptions to increase significantly during the next 2 or 3 years in the future across all farming segments, not only medium and large, but also small farmers. And just to finish, this acceleration will also make the role of institutions even more important. That is what we believe from MICA. Our task is not only to promote digital transformation, but to guide it in a way that maximizes benefits, minimizes risk, and ensures that opportunities reach all farmers and rural territories. And if we succeed in the region, digital agriculture can become one of the most powerful drivers of competitiveness and sustainability in Latin America and the Caribbean. That is what we see from MIC. And thank you very much again, Tomás.
Federico, thank you very much. And maybe for the upcoming Digital Week, maybe the lenses that Kata was suggesting earlier could be added to your concerns. So not to make too many concerns part of our work, but maybe worth considering, if I can add to that. Now is the turn of Nixon. So Nixon Cheo is a digital agricultural expert based in Nairobi, but I understand now from Arusha, with more than 15 years of experience in this field, including as senior digital officer at Agra. You have been very active in our e-discussion, and some of your inputs will remain imprinted in my memory, like when you mentioned the lab to land divide, or when you also mentioned that the state of digitalization in low mid-income countries has entered the stage of evolution from a patchwork experimental pilot stage towards that of basic infrastructure development. So altogether, you also, the same as Federico, has a very positive perspective of what is ahead of us. But could you explain more about where this optimism comes from when considering the gap between digital and AI potential, and the reality of small-scale producers. Dixon.
Thank you very much, Guillermo. I think one of the things that, and thank you for inviting me to this conversation. As rightly spoken, this is really drawing from experience in my work in Africa, and more so in sub-Saharan Africa, that we, in my former work, I did some work on digital, agriculture. And I think one of the core argument for some of the issues that we see that negate, adoption or scale up for, digital agriculture is really, like I pointed out in some of the, argument that I had, is really the lack of, individual components, like policy, infrastructure, tools. But even if these components are taken in separation and not looked at as systemic gaps, you will experience a challenge in terms of adoption. Specifically, the absence of the execution architecture that looks at integrating this component, like policy, infrastructure, and data that has been spoken about by the previous speakers. I think the shift for me is focusing from looking at the standalone digital projects to really an integrated system perspective, where digital adoption is more of a natural outcome of an economic value deliverance. Currently, we have been seeing and we have been learning from some of the mistakes or some of the gaps that we have seen in digital agriculture adoption in Africa. One which I've alluded to is the isolated constraints and also fragmented adoption. And we, in a way, also identified, misunderstanding on how some of these adoption or scale are not being achieved, because I think one of the mistakes that people make is that, if you build it as, as an innovator, then the farmers will crowd in automatically, and you hope that they will really come in. But from experience, I've seen that digital tools, you need to consider the digital tools, you need to consider, policy frameworks, you need to consider what some of our partners, former partners, or some of the organizations who are represented here are doing, the digital public infrastructure. All these are necessary, but also inefficient on their own. We need to see how these components, like I said, come together in an integrated kind of system, and where also we have a bit of a missing link is without an economic kind of system connecting demand, production, data and finance initiative, some of these things remain independent, and without them coming together, without an external support, they cannot support farmers on their own. So you need to bring this economic system connected together, so that you're looking at the demand, you're looking at production, you're looking at data, you're looking at finance, to bring together success in any digital deployment. And also one of the things that I think we have been measuring is, looking to go and see how is the adoption rate. And I think one of the things that I am learning over time is that adoption should really not be the primary goal. Rather, it is a byproduct of a system that provides, consistent economic value to farmers and the value chain actors. And I'll explain this by saying, like, a farmer is ready to adopt any system. I think Federico talked about what they are doing in the Southern America region, where it's given an example of how farmers that they are hoping that farmers will adopt some of the solutions that they've come. But my experience is that farmers will only adopt a solution when they see the value in a solution. So you need to demonstrate the value that comes with this solution. So beyond the enabling environment, that is a collection of separate factors that I've talked about, data and all that, you look at the functional system initiative like, the national, data infrastructure. You look at initiatives like connectivity, unique initiative, which I think the previous speakers have talked about. Those are factors that actually, if they're integrated in the system, then makes sense in trying to grow or even increase adoption of farmers to the system. So apart from that, this system for me can also be looked at in this integration point. One is the market anchoring, where we're looking at digital solution really must be grounded in the real market demands and not just used as a technical possibilities. Number two, there must be an incentive alignment, and I think I've talked about that previously, where you have mechanism that can create, that must be created, where the success of one actor, take for example a farmer, drives the success of others. The financiers, the bank, the small micro, finances, or even the aggregator or the buyers. So you need sort of an incentive alignment for this system to work. The third one I would say is the embedded system. I've talked about data. I've talked about DPI, which is the digital public infrastructure. They should not just sit apart from the user, but be woven directly into delivery mechanism. And then this also, includes the network system, the interconnectivity, the connectivity system. And then we also have the financial linkages, where we're looking at system must directly, connect agricultural activities to financing and investment flow. And this helps in, de-risking adoption for farmers. Having said that, I think one of the things that we need to shift, we need a fundamental change in how we define not only digital agriculture and adoption and scale, but we need to move from, for me, from standalone digital agendas focused on technology deployment, where we're just counting on the number of technology which are deployed, to a more broader, what I would call economic transformation architecture, where digital tools, serve as the nerve system of the farming system. So we need to address really quite a number of things. One is, access and usability, and this speaks to reliable connectivity. You're also looking at affordability. Can the farmers afford some of these solutions? You're also looking at issues of digital literacy, and also user-centric design. And in the realm of AI, user-centric design really speaks about looking at including local languages and low complexity in some of the designs that we have for our digital, solutions. And these are essential because this will, affect the real world adoption by, smallholder farmers.
Nixon, I have to stop you there because we are running out of time. You have said so many things. I just want to pick up again one of your brilliant sentences, like adoption is a byproduct of economic value, incentive alignment, but also maybe disincentive rejection, like data, if there is data extraction there. Sorry for that, but we have to move on to Lakshmi. And who is the next speaker? Lakshmi is a senior director, agriculture and climate action at Grameen Foundation. So you're not, strictly speaking, a representative of the farmers, although we had Asian Farmers Association in the first webinar, and the Eastern Africa Farmers Federation is a valuable partner in this conversation, but you do have a lot of experience on how digital solutions impact income and livelihoods of smallholder farmers. So it connects to what Nixon was saying in a way. Let's assume that you can represent them today, if you agree anyway. And Lakshmi, can you tell us, based on Grameen experience, what you foresee happening with this arrival of AI-based solution, particularly in the field of advisory services for small-scale farmers?
Thanks, Tommaso, and delighted to be on this panel with such brilliant people. Thanks for the opportunity to share some of our research and our findings, and really excited about Digital AgriHub's 5th anniversary. Grameen Foundation, we're a nonprofit organization. We've always been involved in generating digital tools and digitally enabled advisory that supports smallholder farmers' needs. So the question you're asking is super relevant for us, Tommaso, as an NGO, and we always appreciate it when the perspective of a smallholder farmer, and particularly that of a woman smallholder farmer, could be expressed. AI, we feel AI is already disrupting the entire ecosystem of digital advisory services. It's already arrived to a certain extent. It's already powering apps that are already in the hands of smallholder farmers and extension agents. And we'd like to talk about that a little bit during these few minutes. Really, for smallholder farmers, what we find, what we have experienced, is that the questions are always clearly stated, right? Will these digitally enabled or these AI-powered apps help resolve my immediate pain points? And more long-term, are they going to resolve the multitude of pain points that I face as a smallholder farmer? Will it enable me to increase my incomes, improve my resilience, or strengthen my agency? And for the sector, working directly with smallholder farmers, the question is also whether these tools will build that bridge that reduces the digital divide that we see amongst women smallholder farmers and male counterparts. And as an entire ecosystem, we've really been trying to be as inclusive as possible when it comes to the design of these AI-powered digital advisory services. Is there more that we can do, since the advent of it is just becoming kind of more clear? And we say this especially as women smallholder farmers don't always have access to smartphones, and definitely not regular access. And, you know, this is an old statistic, but it's still really important to keep it in mind and kind of ground us as we talk about inclusivity and bridging digital divide, is that the FAO estimates that women only receive 5% of agricultural extension support, and that only 15% of ag extension agents are women. And this is largely the case, as standard extension programs only target landowners, and that's typically their male counterparts. Grameen was a consortium member of a 5-year action research project called AgriPath, and this was aimed at identifying, assessing, and kind of promoting effective pathways for digital advisory services that could support smallholder farmers, both men and women. And it was conducted across 5 different geographies, 5 different countries, 2 in South Asia, India, Nepal, 2 in East Africa, Uganda and Tanzania, and Burkina Faso in West Africa. And I'd like to talk a little bit about this research because I think it's pretty important, as it highlights one of the points that Kata actually mentioned, which is the importance of community-based agents to support this growing kind of digital divide and the design of these AI-enabled tools requiring more focus on inclusivity. So AgriPath ran 2 randomized control trials, one in India, one in Uganda, to really test the effectiveness of 3 different approaches of reaching smallholder farmers with digital advisory services. We used a proxy application called Farm Better, and Farm Better pulls sustainable land management practices from the global sustainable land management database called WOCAT. It's a scientifically vetted and approved kind of content that sits in this database. And we leverage Farm Better to help design, conduct some human-centered design trials, and really roll out the randomized control trial. So between 2023 and 2025, AgriPath essentially implemented 2 cluster randomized control trials on digital advisory services, and it was complemented by a study in Tanzania. And more than 4,200 smallholder farmers took part. And the 3 ways that we tested that smallholder farmers could receive information was where agents were trained on the app, and they then trained farmers on how to download and navigate the app. But there was no inbuilt app-based communication channel for farmers and agents. But they were able to touch base in person, mimicking kind of what happens in regular everyday experience. The second model is an agent model, where agents were trained on the app and where farmers were not trained on the app, but they were not encouraged to download it. And the third model was the hybrid model, where agents and farmers were both trained on the app and used WhatsApp, a channel on the smartphone, to communicate and create farmer groups and share information with each other, etc. And in India, the randomized control trial results show a substantial increase in both awareness and adoption of sustainable land management practices, and that the hybrid model worked best for them to be able to do this. Hybrid, again, is agent plus farmer, both leveraging the app, communicating together. The agent would help translate, demonstrate, reassure, have a meaningful conversation with these farmers. And we saw the adoptions of these practices increase. And so this makes a lot of common sense. This is intuitive, as many of the agents in India are from the communities themselves, and they're nurtured by various NGOs and government-based programs. There was a lot of trust-based relationships being leveraged, and these are already in existence. In Uganda, the randomized control trial results showed a substantial increase in both awareness and adoption of the sustainable land management practices. And it was the self-service model that had a slightly higher awareness, and adoption of the land management practices. But remember, it was the agents that were initially onboarding and training the farmers and supporting them to help navigate them through the app at the very initial stages. So in both of these kind of trial scenarios and from these suggested research findings, we know that agents are important. They matter, they're critical, and the bottom line from this research really shows, right, that humans are still needed. And so with the advent of AI, I think that there's a move towards more digital first types of approaches. And the fear here for us is that as there is a move towards that we would continue to kind of expand that digital divide without even recognizing it. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a very, fact-based kind of conclusion that you're presenting. I would like to make a short quote from someone, actually, Daniela Modei from Anthropic. The question she asked recently was, should we surrender to AI or be empowered by? With this quote, Sander, can I ask you to do the impossible exercise of wrapping up?
Yes,
maybe
thanks,
possible
Thomas.
given your many skills. Maybe possible.
Oh, well, I think you can always evaluate whether I do better than an AI system in this wrapping up, or whether I would leave it to the AI system to do it in the future. So thanks for this very rich panel. I think I heard so many different perspectives on what's in the future, on farmer-centric, on that we are on this brink of breaking through with digital agriculture, or maybe the extractive risks of some of these technologies and middlemen and how to control that, and how really to work together with farmers and learn by the different modalities. I think, as Digital Agri, we have been going for 5 years, and we're also wondering what we should do in the next 5 years, as Giacomo presented the answers we got so far. And we also wanted to give you, as audience, a bit of a chance to respond to this question. So I think we're getting to this idea of more farmer-centric, more technology foresighting, the data infrastructures and all this. So it's a lot of elements there. I made a short Mentimeter to hopefully, where you can hopefully provide your inputs. So we'll share this now. And if you see my screen, you can log on to Mentimeter there and then start providing the inputs. I will also hopefully provide this link in the chat where you can see the QR code and the code you need to enter into Mentimeter to participate in this. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see your answers on here. Yeah, you will see a change as you go along. You can, in this first question, is what is needed most the next 5 years from Digital Agri up in the D4Ag sector. I wanted to see, you can select 2. Don't be afraid. It's a bit nasty because maybe you think they're all relevant, but I want to force a bit of prioritization by having you select 2. Yeah, I see that already a lot of people are getting active. So this is really great. Yeah, I'll wait a second for you all to respond and for more people to join. If you're struggling to join, go to menti.com and enter 16777808 or scan the QR code. So, a lot of people appreciate apparently the reports and knowledge products and the discussions we do. So that's great. Good. We also want to see more of them in the future. Okay, I'm seeing almost that we are getting close to more people are joining and more people are answering. So it's a kind of competition, what gets faster to this. But I think from this we can conclude that these discussions are really helpful, and the reports and knowledge products are really seen as useful for the sector, with technology foresight as a good third. I mean, this doesn't mean we shouldn't do the other things. It's not but it's more how to balance them and where to put the emphasis. So with this in mind, you please continue answering. That's really helpful. I will go to the next question, which is made it slightly more complicated for you, based on the discussions we had. What we should focus on is Digital Agri Hub, and you can rank these four. Maybe you think that these four are not all capturing everything, but please rank them and see a bit what you think is most relevant. And we put here Digital Agri Hub, but this is not only that we should be the Digital Agri Hub, but also maybe with others, with bigger partners. I try to make it a bit more practical by mentioning a Digital Agri Hub. So I'm really curious to see what you think here. And yeah, good to see so many responses coming in so quickly. I think Farmer's Voice is clearly winning at the moment. So that's good. I think we put a lot of effort in, and it's also great to hear in the panelist discussion now that farmers really need, the position of farmers really needs more attention in both position of power and being aware of the position of power, also the co-design, working with farmers to design solutions and methods of access to solutions. How do farmers really find solutions and can be part of not only using the solution, but also working with it. Okay, this is great. The others, they are all on the same level, so that means that we don't think they are not important, but that they all sort of on the same. But Farmer's Voice and this co-design clearly wins here. Then the last question is what activities we should focus on the next 5 years. Here you can openly just give us all suggestions, also for the sector more widely. I think if you have any reflective points, maybe you think it could be something very practical, like it would be great to see a webinar on blockchain technologies, or it would be great to see a webinar on really user-centered design technologies. Please add all those, or discussion on one topic or another. Then we that's really helpful. I think I will leave this open for you to provide these inputs. In the meantime, we have come to 2 minutes to the hour, so we would like to finish on time, as we also started on time. And just for me to highlight, while I keep this open, that we have a couple of new features on the Digital Agri Hub that Indra also posted in the chat. Please check these out. We have an overview of the AI solutions as part of the 1500 solutions we collected. I think that's really rich and good to see. If you're now also a digital solution provider, you can, and you're taking control of your digital solution, you can add the crops or livestock you're active in. So please also do that if you're already on the dashboard, and check what's happening there. The AI chatbot is live and answering questions whenever you want it. I think that's a good point of AI solutions. They're always active. They can answer your questions 24 hours. I will need to sleep at some point, so this is a bit of a drawback. I see. Thanks also for the many suggestions coming in now. That's really great. And I will leave this open for a bit also after the webinar. So if you think 10 minutes like, oh, I forgot to add this, then please do so. With this, I think I cannot see my screen now, Giacomo, other than the slide, or Tommaso. If there's no other points, I will start this closing thing. I'll quickly check with you.
I think we had a last slide where we thanking everybody and also mentioning our names. Kutsanai also, who is our communication lead, part of the team, but I don't think we had any other special
Good
statements.
So, good. Thanks, Tommaso, for this. Then I will officially thank everybody. And that's Tommaso, Giacomo, and Indo for organizing all this, Kutsanai for the presentations and the materials, and of course, a fantastic panel with Katja, Federico, Nixon, and Lakshmi for providing their insights and giving us support points for the future development. I hope for you all participants, it's really great to see these active contributions to this webinar. I hope it was really useful for you to listen in and to get inspired, and hopefully also to have ideas how we can all, as a digital agriculture sector, really move forward and do things together. So with this, I close, and thanks all for your participation.
Many thanks. To be continued.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.